Hold on.
Go
I have
ahead.
a kiddo trying to break in. No, buddy, what do you need from here?
Linda, listen, Linda, listen.
Okay, what?
Like
You're not doing nothing. They don't bother you. But as soon as you start to do something, they want your full attention.
Linda, honey, look at this.
Probably sleep until like noon. Like,
Linda, look it.
Hello, Suspicious, and welcome to the Bailey Banter episode 88. Lorene and I'm here with our Chrysii again because we just did the last banter together.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, we did. So today we are going to talk Bailey's dark history since she didn't do a murder mystery. So that's what we'll be talking about today. But before we get into that, we want to go through our, our normal announcements that we always go through. And our first one will be our top 5 contributors.
I love everybody who adds to the group every single month, and it just makes the group better.
Yes, it does.
We really appreciate everybody.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay, so I'm going to start at number 5 is Randy Furman, and that is a name we haven't seen on the list before, so good job.
Yes, she's new. I mean, she's been with our group forever, but she made the top 5 this week. Our number 4 is our beautiful Leanne Fry.
Number 3 is Kim Ullman.
And number 2 is at the same spot for God knows how long now, but Crystal Rose Guerrero Martinez.
And the number 1 top spot is Sherry Banyan.
Yay!
Held that for I don't know how many months, but
yeah, she's always up in there, but congratulations, guys, and thank you for always contributing to the group. And then our next thing is our Bailey Challenge winner from January, and that is none other than Sherry Bynum. Yay, Sherry. And Sherry was also the winner of last month's challenge. And for those of you who may not know, our winners are chosen at random. Every name is put into a spinning wheel, and depending on how many looks you submit, that's how many chances you get. So there's 4 looks, so you can get 4 chances to do it. And Jenya did something new this year, that the winner of the previous month gets to choose a look for the next month. So Sherry, since you won it last month, you already know what to do. So contact Jenya.
And remember, you don't have a chance to win unless you participate. And
exactly.
There's 2 non-makeup challenges this month too. There's rings and beads.
Yep. I got the ring today. And then I did Bailey's look coming up. We've been talking about this, and we've been kind of hitting in the group about it and stuff. Next month is going to be our MMM Madness. So that is going to be our annual giveaway. Instead of doing the founders giveaway, we are going to do something different this year. And stay tuned, because those rules and how you can participate and win will be coming up shortly.
The group is looking really good.
It is. We did have one instance that somebody made a comment in the group. So if you guys say something in the group and you don't agree with it, don't post it in the group. Contact one of us. I mean, there's 11 of us?
Yeah.
With the admins and the mods and stuff. Message us and we will take care of it quickly, because we pride on ourselves for being a safe place for people to be themselves without ridicule and everything. So, yeah, if you see something, say something.
Okay, so this dark history was about aphrodisiacs.
Welcome to the dark history of aphrodisiacs.
And this was a fun episode.
It was. That, I watched it, but there was just so much.
I didn't have enough time to memorize all of these facts, so I'm going to be reading them up because there was a lot.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
The earliest, aphrodisiacs were fruits and vegetables that were penis vagina shaped.
Yep.
So like parsnips, carrots, figs. I know she listed a few other ones, but I didn't get those ones down, but that kind of makes sense. I mean, I've heard that avocados, supposedly it translates to testicle-shaped fruit.
Yep. Well, I know she said oysters for vagina.
Yes. Yeah.
And I so totally cannot unsee that.
To me, I think it makes the fruit and vegetables less appealing now, because it's
right? Exactly.
Kind of gross.
Yeah.
Yuck. Oysters. It also has with the whole Aphrodite painting, which I know a lot of people are very familiar with that painting, and she's coming out of the sea foam. And I wrote down the story. I think it was Cronus who cut off his dad's penis, tossed it in the ocean, and it was covered with white sea foam. And out of this sea foam, Aphrodite was born.
Yeah.
Aphrodite Greek or Roman? I always get those two mixed up. I have no clue. It's one of them.
It is one of them. I would want to say Greek.
Yeah.
I want to say Greek. And you know what? And it's funny. I never put the two together. Aphrodite, aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
Goddess of love, So I learned something new.
Yes, I learned a few things, and that's why there's a lot of things from the ocean that were considered to be like aphrodisiacs, because they felt because she was born of it and she was the love goddess, that her powers had kind of almost like enchanted things in the ocean to have those same properties. The next one that was really big was mandrake root.
Yes.
Which I swear, I've heard of that one before. And it was used by men and women all over the world, prominently until the 18th century.
Mm-hmm.
And it does look like a little person. And I'm like, isn't that the thing from Harry Potter?
And then you know what? She showed a clip of it. Yeah. Because she was saying that actually the people who pulled it died. And then if you also pulled it out of the ground, they said it made like a screaming noise.
Yeah.
Also like a hallucinogenic.
Yep.
And
so they believed it had magical powers, and it can cause hallucinations and can make you feel warm.
Mm-hmm.
And people would make it into a love potion by soaking it in wine or vinegar. And really, a lot of these things had a placebo effect. It was kind of put out there. These things worked, so then therefore people would take them and feel the effect because they already had that idea in their mind that's what was going to happen.
Right.
The Catholic Church gets involved because, of course, why wouldn't they? I think it was after the Black Plague. People were hungry, and when you're, hungry all the time and tired, you're not horny and you're not having more children.
Right.
And like most religions, they were like, we need more people to be Catholics. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We need more bigger numbers, and people aren't doing it.
Right.
And they also blamed witches, which he said there's another dark history that goes more about that one. So eventually I need to watch that one too. They stated that aphrodisiacs were okay as long as you pray.
Yeah, right.
No, right?
But you know, and the thing about Catholic religions too was you could not enjoy sex. Sex was only to be had to make children.
Yep. Like a wifely duty. That's another one I've heard before. It is your duty to be married and then have as many children as
Yep.
possible. I was raised Roman Catholic, so
Me too.
some of it to me is kind of funny. But anyways,
It is.
the next one that I've heard about is ambergris. Yes, ambergris.
Ambergris, yes. That
Which
was interesting.
I didn't know what it was at first. I would walk ashore and this weird gunk, right? And they didn't know what it was. They didn't know what came from, but they're like, wow, that has a really strong odor. Let's try putting in everything to see what it did. I love looking back in history where people would be like, what is this? I don't know. Can we eat it? You know, let's find out. They tried things with like just total abandon of like, will it kill me?
I know, right?
Found something weird on the beach. I'm not going to, put it in my body or on my body.
Right.
It is made from sperm whales. She did mention about, she didn't know why they're called sperm whales. And I kind of want to look that up. Why did they name them that?
Right. That was interesting too, how that the ambergris came about, because I learned something new from that as well. That because the ambergris was from a squid.
Yeah.
It was the beak of a squid. Didn't know squids had beaks. But I guess somewhere underneath all that blubber or whatever you want to call it, there was a beak.
Yeah.
And then that's how, and then something about it was made in the digestive tract, and that
it would irritate it.
Yes. And then it either threw it up or it pooped it out. So either way, it's kind of gross how it got to be where it got to be.
Yeah.
That's
and it's expensive. And I'm finding more and more expensive things are gross things. Okay.
Yep. And they called it treasure of the sea.
Yep.
And or floating gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was worth a lot too. So that's just, of course it was.
Yeah.
And it's still used, although it's been banned in a lot of places. And it's of course not considered vegan, and companies will lie about using it.
That it's not vegan?
Yeah, of course it's not vegan.
Right. And you know what? And she even said this too. She was kind of confused on it, because why? Well, I guess I could see it now. Now I can see it, because technically you're not killing the animal to get it. It's just excremented from its body.
Yeah. And they don't, if you're vegan, you can't eat eggs either, because it's from an animal. Right. Any product from an animal.
Right.
Usually is a big no-no. It came out of an animal. I think that would just kind of be generally be like, no, that's not.
Yeah. That makes sense now. Because then I was thinking too, because it was from the squid. You know, squid's an animal, so yeah. So that would make sense now.
And it's so funny that it's still kind of being used now. Although you would think there's like although just trying to find it randomly on the beach would mean that's very unpredictable. But then you could charge a huge amount for it because it's so rare.
Right. But where would you see? That is something to be interesting to be looking up. Why is it called a sperm whale? And where do sperm whales migrate? I
Yeah.
mean, where are they? Are they in the US? Do we have sperm whales in the US? Are they in a different country? Likely would it be for us to find this floating gold or
Yeah. And usually, since it's a whale, most of them have where they travel thousands and thousands of miles. That's why people state them being in captivity is so horrible because
right,
for the distance they travel, no tank would be big enough
big
and
enough.
sustain the amount that they actually move.
Right.
Which is funny as an aphrodisiac because it makes it harder for men to pitch their tent.
Yeah.
So this one scientist made a concoction and it helped men to slow down in the bedroom. And they realized, and one guy was like, it's kind of nice for women to enjoy sex too.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Women should be enjoying their time in the bedroom as well.
Uh-huh.
They had this idea that women couldn't get pregnant unless they orgasmed. So later on, now this has been misused with this idea because of SA victims getting pregnant. They would be like, you must have enjoyed it because you wouldn't have been able to get pregnant unless you like,
right.
Which is really sad.
Yeah, very much so.
It's weird that, for so long, like the idea of women enjoying intercourse was seen as just like, oh, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, because they had the ideology back in the day, that you were there just to bear children.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to enjoy it.
Okay. This is where it gets, that one it was a lot of information and dragged a little for me. But anyways, next part is both Incas and Aztecs. And they have their own, which was chocolate. But I already knew this. Chocolate back then isn't like what we think of chocolate now.
Right.
Because there was no milk and there was no sugar.
Right.
And if you take those out, if you ever eaten like 90% like dark chocolate, it's very, very bitter.
Oh, very.
Yes. And they would make like a chocolate, basically like hot chocolate if it was bitter and not sugar and no milk.
Yeah.
And what did they call it? Oh, Hexley. I think that's how I wrote it out to try to remember how to pronounce it. And of course, it was for the rich.
Mm-hmm.
There's one, was it? I didn't write if he was Incan, but it was Montezuma II, who was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And I loved her little side story about going on the ride and throwing up. I thought that was really funny. We don't have one of those amusement parks around here like that, so I've never been on that, ride before.
Yeah, me neither.
We have like Valley Fair. Covered in jewels that he would give to women to try to, I think, bring into his harem because they felt like you could influence somebody with this drink.
Mm-hmm.
And he would go through 2,000 cups a day.
Yeah.
And drank 50 cups a day of it himself.
Right.
Which is just crazy to think.
That is crazy.
And that means he had people working for him that was making all of this. So was there like a royal hot cocoa maker?
I know, right? And I wonder, because I think eating that much chocolate, especially in its pure form, would not be good. And I'm really wondering if that's where the Montezuma's revenge comes from.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced that. Never experienced the Montezuma ride, but the Montezuma's revenge. If you go to Mexico and they tell you, don't drink the water, do not drink the water. Okay? Because it is not a pleasant experience.
I grew up on well water, and my cousins came over, and they hadn't had our water before, or really well water at all, and they drank it and got ill from it. So later on, they would bring stuff to drink. That's what I grew up for years, and there was no filters on it, and you could smell our water like a foot away from the tap. Oh yeah, so I could see where people. I mean, if you can get affected by well water in the US that you're not used to, I couldn't imagine Mexico. That was probably a horrible experience.
It was.
The next part, because we talk about Casanova, and I forget this was a real person.
Yeah.
And like, we still hear that word nowadays, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And he traveled, I basically traveled through Europe banging high society, was my note for him. And I wrote down, supposedly lost his virginity to 2 sisters. So my husband's sitting next to me. He's like, yeah, right. This dude wrote about himself and all his, experiences. And like, he could have said anything.
Right.
But I mean, he had enough of a reputation. Some of it had to be true. And he was also obsessed with aphrodisiacs and loved oysters.
Mm-hmm.
Dozens and dozens and dozens of oysters. And nope. I think after this, I don't know if I'm ever going to eat oysters again. I mean, I generally don't.
Yeah.
But if I had the opportunity, I might just be like, I'll never eat them raw. I mean, that's
I couldn't imagine doing that. Now I did have oysters Rockefeller, which was pretty good. And that was my first time having oysters, which was like 2 years ago. But yeah, they are just not appealing at all. Isn't the oyster the actual aphrodisiac for the male? Not so much the female.
Yeah.
I think it's more for the male and their libido or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Which I think a lot of these aphrodisiacs were probably more focused on.
Yeah, true. And and still probably true today, other than the Viagra.
Yeah.
Because that was specifically made. I wonder if it's still like a true placebo, that it's just in people's heads that this is what it will do.
On that one, I think they tested it as like a different type of medication, and they noticed that they had a full erection for a very long time. For some people, can cause significant side effects, and it can kill you. So in that one might be a little bit more of an actual thing. You are taking a risk by taking it, though. It is not free from side effects. And because it started out as one med, then they found out, which a lot of meds, that's how we find them, is that they test it for one thing. And then while doing the testing, they'll be like, oh, this is also happening. Can we use this drug now for this instead?
Right.
Person she was talking about was the Marquis de Sade, and
the sadism,
which is kind of interesting. That comes from this person, and that's where the word which I have heard this name before, but I've never I couldn't think of anything about them, if that makes sense, right? I'm like, that name sounds familiar, but I don't know from where. Actual name was Donation. That was his real name. Which sounds weird that at one point that was a name.
Right.
When did it switch to us talking about donating stuff?
Donate, to give away,
So his mom was a lady in waiting, and I guess he was a very naughty child, and because she was a lady in waiting, of course, around probably the prince. And he beat him so bad, he had to go live with his uncle. And that when he was 5 or 6.
Yeah. And wasn't that the one where the dad also like took off because dad was also a player?
Yeah.
So I wonder where he got it from.
Yeah. And then he was spoiled by the uncle and the servants at the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was exposed to what we would consider porn at a very young age. Like,
yep. Like
so
5 or 6 years old, yeah.
Yeah. And then wasn't he like for punishments too?
Yep.
Was like whipped and beaten, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he started finding like pleasure from it.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, of course, he grew up to be a very unique individual. He had dozens of affairs he had affairs. He also really liked sex workers, so he was just doing all that.
Isn't he the one that during his pleasures or whatever into the chalice? Okay.
Oh yeah, there's 2 things in here.
Yeah.
Actually, that were very interesting. He locked up a woman, forced her to whip him while he jerked off into a chalice.
Right. I think that was one of his servants.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then another one is where there was a crucifix involved in whatever they were doing that he forced upon them, but there was no details about what was done with the crucifix.
You can only use your imagination on that one. What was the other one?
Where he cut a servant and dripped wax into her wounds.
Yes. Yes. And he's the one, I believe, and I didn't realize this, that he was found out for those crimes. And he was going to be put to death.
Mm. And then they didn't.
No, because he ran.
Yeah. So the other one, I didn't write this down, but I do remember it. He also wrote like literature books too.
Mm-hmm.
And one was called Justine.
Right.
And it had a part in it where a priest seduces a young woman and uses a wafer on her.
Mm-hmm.
Or a communion, wafer.
Right.
And it makes me think, it's kind of funny now because lately, like smut books are really popular and people are really talking about them.
Uh-huh.
This was so long ago. And he was writing smut books back then. They aren't a new thing. They've been around for
forever.
Really, really long time.
Yeah.
I just recently saw somebody who does Hungarian folk dress. And she pointed out the patterns on the dress, like the old ones, are inspired by vaginas.
What?
So if you look into history, people have been obsessed with sex for a very, very long time. This is not something new, okay? People are talking about, people nowadays are so corrupt and weird.
Right. No, it was bad. I think it was probably worse way back when.
He liked aphrodisiacs, of course, and the one he liked was the Spanish fly.
Oh, yeah.
Which comes from 2 beetles mating.
Mm-hmm.
And it was around the same time as aqua tofana. So this was kind of going around that time, too.
Yeah, huh? She said aqua tofana was everywhere.
And he would lace candies to give to women. And one time hosted a party because his idea was to have a big orgy.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going at it. But unfortunately, the chocolate that was laced with it made everyone become violently ill. So,
yes. Yeah, because they said that stuff was actually poisonous.
That probably what was like the last thing that caused him to be arrested probably was over this incident. Science system would come around and it's starting to debunk aphrodisiacs. It's starting to say, no, this doesn't do anything. And so everybody starts kind of using some of these aphrodisiacs in everyday items. And one of them is perfume. And then it went into deer musk, which I already knew was a thing. And it's just really weird to think that's like another thing used in expensive items that when you think about it is kind of gross. because it comes from a sack
Mm-hmm.
by their butt.
Yep.
That needs to be removed, and that's where you get the scent from.
Right.
That
And it's
smells
from
horrible.
an actual musk deer.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, though, the only way to get it is by killing the deer.
Right.
Of course.
Trying to think about it when she was talking about it. So I remember as a teenager, I used to love to wear Cody Wild Musk. So I'm wondering, is this,
If it was in there.
if it's it? And then now that I think about it now, I forgot. I just put on this body spray that I got from I think it's Bath and Body Works. It's called If You Musk. So
I wonder if there's synthetic versions now of that.
I really hope so.
Which to me, it's weird that we're making a synthetic version of something that you get out of a sack from a deer. That it's kind of crazy to me. I know
Right?
my dad's a deer hunter, and they use scents
Oh, yeah.
to attract deer.
Track the deer. Yeah.
Because musk is an aphrodisiac for other deer.
Yeah. And it stinks.
Yeah.
It's not even nothing pleasant about it.
No.
But I think it's everything else that's mixed with it is what creates the pleasant scent. But who in the world sat down and mixed all that stuff together?
There was a lot of people with a lot of time on their hands, and
apparently
very curious people. That's what we'll just.
Yeah.
Back then, you found something, you're like, what can I use it?
Use it for?
Can I wear it? Is it medicine?
Right?
Kind of like a theme of things helping guys.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And she pointed out a lot of the supplements that were aphrodisiacs have become supplements for bodybuilders.
Mm-hmm. I do remember her saying that.
If you affect your hormones, then you can help yourself get more, jacked up faster. Right. Moral of the story, aphrodisiacs are fun if you use them for fun and not to be taken too seriously or to coerce people.
Right.
Which was in there too.
Right.
The whole idea of love spells and giving it to someone, and then all of a sudden they're going to be in love with you, and now you can be with them, which is super creepy. They always show that in movies, ending badly though.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just never goes right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it was an interesting dark history, and we haven't actually discussed a dark history episode on here in a while, so it was kind of nice. And thank you for being the one to write with it and take
oh my
all
god,
the
I was just scribbling and scribbling and scribbling. I don't think I hit every single note that she made
fine.
in it either.
We just need to skim over it. Well, that finishes that episode of our Bailey Banter. So we will see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.